I've been investigating. The hidden evidence behind why some women climb the ladder while others stay stuck. And the smoking gun? It isn't your hard work. It's a specific psychological glitch in how you view your 9 to 5. Just look at the crime scene of your typical Tuesday. You're at your desk by 8:30 a.m. Your inbox is meticulously organized, and you've already anticipated 3 problems before your boss even finished her morning coffee. You are the fixer, the reliable one, right? You honestly think that by being the most efficient person in the room, you're building a bridge to your next promotion. But I've been analyzing the data, and the evidence, it suggests something much more sinister. In the psychology of high performance, we see a recurring pattern. Many brilliant women are trapped in what I call the competency cage. You see, you've become so essential at your current level, handling the granular details and keeping the gears grinding, that the organization literally cannot afford to move you. By being the perfect employee, you've accidentally rendered yourself invisible as a leader. You're the engine that keeps the ship moving, but in the eyes of the board, engines don't get to be captains. I've spent months decoding why this happens to high-achieving professionals, and it usually comes down to that specific psychological glitch. You're operating on an employee operating system, where you believe that doing equals value. But at the top of the food chain, value isn't measured by your output. It's measured by your influence and your strategic frame. You're doing the work of 3 people, yet you're being passed over for the woman who seems to do half as much, but speaks with twice the authority. It feels like a mystery, doesn't it? Like there's a secret language they're speaking that you weren't invited to learn. Stay with me, because I'm about to present a deduction later in this video that will completely flip the script. It's a psychological pivot that changes how you walk into your boss's office tomorrow morning, and more importantly, how she perceives your potential from that moment forward. But before I give you the key to the executive suite, we have to examine the specific evidence of how your current mindset is sabotaging your power. Let's look at the first case file, the trap of toxic reliability. Let's look at the profile I've reconstructed for this case file. I call it the honor roll trap. You know this person. Actually, maybe you see her in the mirror every single morning. She's the one who never misses a deadline, whose inbox is always at 0, and who stays late to polish a presentation that was, good enough 3 hours ago. From the outside, you look like the perfect asset. But if we look at the evidence through a psychological lens, you're actually becoming a liability to your own growth. Calculating. Here is the deduction. You see, most of us are still operating on a psychological blueprint that was installed in us when we were, 7 years old? We were taught that if we followed the instructions, stayed quiet, and turned our work in on time, we'd get a gold star. We've been conditioned to be good students, right? But in the high-stakes environment of executive leadership, the good student is the first person to be overlooked for a promotion. Why? Because the good student is waiting for a syllabus. You're waiting for permission to lead, waiting for a manager to notice your hard work, and waiting for someone else to define what success looks like for the quarter. When I analyze the daily schedules of high-achieving professionals who feel stuck, I see a recurring pattern of maintenance overload. You are likely over-delivering on maintenance tasks, the emails, the clerical updates, the lateral coordination. Because it feels safe. It gives you a hit of dopamine to check those boxes. But in the eyes of the C-suite, this is a low career ROI. You're spending 100% of your energy on tasks that keep the ship from sinking, but 0% of your energy on deciding where the ship should actually go. By being too reliable at the small things,
You've accidentally branded yourself as the person who is too valuable to move. You've made yourself indispensable in a basement level role. You're working harder than everyone else, yet you're essentially invisible when it comes to the big picture strategy. This brings us to a disturbing realization. If being a world-class hard worker is actually the problem holding you back, what is the secret variable the top 1% are actually using to ascend? Because it's not more effort, and it's certainly not more maintenance. There is a specific psychological pivot they use to change how they are perceived, and it starts with a concept I call the value vector. When I look at the evidence of high achievers who remain stuck in the middle management layer, the data reveals a fascinating psychological error. I call it the permission glitch. Most people walk into their office every morning under a very specific mental contract, right? You see yourself as a subordinate, waiting for an assignment, a performance review, or maybe a good job from someone higher up the food chain. But if we analyze the top 1% of performers, the ones who seem to ascend effortlessly, well, we find they've completely rewritten this contract. Here is the deduction. You are not an employee of a corporation. You are the CEO of a private high-end consulting firm called You, Inc. And your current employer? They aren't your boss. They are simply your biggest client. This isn't just a clever play on words. It's a radical shift in your cognitive framework. You see, when you view someone as a boss, you operate in a state of constant permission seeking. You wait for the okay to innovate. You wait for the go-ahead to lead. And you stay strictly within the lines because you're afraid of a negative performance rating. That's the permission glitch. It's a psychological safety net that actually keeps you invisible. But when I look at the consultant frame, everything changes. A consultant doesn't ask for permission to fix a problem. No, they identify a leak in the client's business and provide a high-value solution to plug it. They don't wait for a task list. They'll bring the strategy to the table.
Think about the psychological power dynamic here. A boss-employee relationship is based on compliance, but a consultant-client relationship, that's based on ROI. When you stop seeking permission and start providing solutions, well, your value is no longer measured by the hours you sit at your desk, but by the specific problems you solve for your client. I want you to examine your recent interactions. Really look at them. Are you asking, what do you want me to do next? Or are you saying, I've noticed a bottleneck in our Q3 workflow, and here's the framework I've developed to fix it? By adopting the You Inc. mindset, you effectively cure that cognitive dissonance, feeling like a small part of a big machine. You reclaim your agency. You realize that your skills are the product, and your employer is paying a premium for your expertise, not your obedience. However, there's a reason most people are terrified to make this jump. There is one specific detail about the consultant frame that feels incredibly risky to the average mind. And it involves a psychological phenomenon that could either make you indispensable or get you fired if you handle it wrong. This brings us to the most dangerous part of the deduction. So, how do you actually apply this forensic level of precision to your own workday? You see, you start with what I call the investigative protocol, the CEO audit. Think of yourself as a private investigator, looking at your own calendar with a magnifying glass, right? You need to categorize every single task into two distinct piles. Pile 1 is maintenance. These are the employee tasks, the busy work, the endless administrative noise that keeps the lights on but doesn't actually grow the business. Pile 2 is ROI, the CEO tasks.
These are the high leverage moves that move the needle and generate real, tangible value. If you're spending 80% of your day in the maintenance pile, well, you aren't a leader. You're a cog. I want you to look at your sent folder next, because the smoking gun of an employee mindset is usually hidden right there in your emails. Dryly. You've probably typed some variation of this 1,000 times, haven't you? Mocking. Is it okay if I do this? Or just checking in to see if you're okay with X? Sharp. Stop right there. Measured. A CEO doesn't ask for a hall pass to do the job they were hired to do. They provide strategic solutions. Let's look at the before and after of this mindset shift, shall we? Slightly sarcastic. The employee email sounds like this. Hi, I was thinking about starting the new project. Is it okay if I send over a draft by Friday? It's passive. It's permission seeking. Now, look at the CEO status update. I've decided to move forward with the project launch today to ensure we hit our quarterly targets. I'll have the results on your desk by Friday. Do you see the difference? You aren't asking for permission, you are informing them of a strategic decision. You're taking ownership of the outcome before it even happens.
The final part of this protocol is, well, it's the hardest for high achievers to swallow. You have to stop over-delivering on low-impact tasks. I know, it sounds counterintuitive, right? But as a professional woman, you've likely been conditioned to be the good student, to make every PowerPoint slide perfect and every spreadsheet a work of art. Firmly. In the world of high performance, that is a massive waste of your cognitive energy. Direct. A CEO doesn't obsess over the font size of a memo. They delegate or automate the mundane so they can protect their mental bandwidth for the 20% of work that actually drives the agency forward. But there's a reason you haven't made this shift yet. Gravely. There is a hidden psychological barrier, a silent saboteur in your brain that makes you crave that permission, even when you don't need it. It's a survival mechanism that's actually keeping you trapped in the middle management layer. And if you don't learn how to dismantle this specific mental block, you'll always be the one doing the work while someone else takes the credit. Here is the one thing your boss isn't telling you about why they actually want you to stop being so obedient. You see, the evidence is staring us right in the face. Analytical. Throughout this investigation, well, we finally unmasked the silent saboteur. That one voice keeping you waiting for a green light that, let's be honest, is never going to come. Here is the final verdict, right? Your job title, it's just a temporary label on a filing cabinet. But your mindset, that is the architect of your entire reality. You know, the biggest secret of high performers isn't that they have more power. It's simply that they stopped asking for it. I want you to try something radical this week. I'm calling it the CEO protocol. Find one decision, something small but impactful, and just execute it without asking for permission first. Stop looking for a nod of approval, right? Start looking for results. If it works, you've proven your value. If it doesn't, well, you own the fix. That is exactly how a leader thinks. When you shift from being a cog in someone else's machine to being the CEO of You Inc., the game changes forever. Calm, logical. Companies can merge, downsize, or even disappear. But You Inc. is the only business that will never fire you, as long as you keep investing in your own mental capital. You've seen the blueprint, and you have the data. Now, it's time to close the case on your old self. If you're ready to stop playing small and start mastering that psychological edge of high performance, well, make sure to hit that subscribe button for Power of Mindset. I'll see you in the next deep dive. Case